Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to BAN-KAST. This will be covering Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War Arc, episode number 29, The Dark Arm. And for the second week in a row, we have a shirtless man to kick us off here. We got Jushiro Ukitake performing some weird kind of ritual involving the Soul King's left foot or something. I don't know. Okay. So we're actually kicking right into this. You know, the Soul King gets stabbed and then subsequently cut in half by Ichigo. Way to go, Ichigo. You know, you're the main character of the story, and you ended up killing the Soul King, whatever. Ukitake jumps right into it. He kind of already probably knew that this is what was going to happen today. I'm probably going to have to sacrifice my life to one of the arms of the Soul King in order to make sure that all of reality doesn't fall apart, which will result in my own death. But hey, there's a Hell arc coming up, so I'm probably going to be involved in that. Don't worry about it. In fact, there's actually an additional scene. It's not a very long scene, but there is a scene between Ukitake and Unohana in this episode where it sets up stuff for the Hell arc. That's really cool, so I'm glad they're changing things around to add to the later parts of the story. And, you know, are we going to get more Hell arc? I'm pretty sure we're going to get more Hell arc soon. Maybe not soon. I shouldn't say soon, yeah. You know what? No. New chapter of Bleach, the Hell arc, is coming out December 14th, 2024. You heard it here first. You did not hear it here first. That is I just made up that number, but we'll see. Okay. Anywho, Ukitake takes off his shirt, or, he unfastens his shiakusho and pulls out his sword, Sogyo no Kotowari, and he begins this chant. And the chant is for the Mimihage. Oh, Mimihage-sama, Mimihage-sama, Mimihage-sama. Okay, so the Mimihage is the right arm of the Soul King. You may have noticed that the Reo had all of his limbs ripped off of him and his heart gouged out. It was a rough time. So those limbs actually ended up becoming, like, really important. You know, you can't just rip off the arms of a god and not have them gain sentience and awareness and become gods in their own right. You know, you kind of like, you rip them apart, you just make more gods kind of a situation. They're not as strong as the Reo in full form, but still pretty powerful in their own right. So Mimihage, and we actually do get the flashback here. So this is in the manga, but a lot of this stuff with Jushiro's life growing up after he was cured by the Mimihage. Well, cured is kind of a strong term. After his disease was put into stasis, let's say, because we're going to find that out here. We actually learn a lot of lore involving both the left and right arms of the Soul King here. We would not have learned that information until much later when Mayuri was fighting Pernida, Sternritter C. That's when we found out, like, the right arm governs stillness and the left arm governs progress. And we actually learned that little piece of info here from Shunsui of all people. So it's interesting. So Jushiro Ukitake grew up in the East Rukongai in an area called Sakahone, or Reverse Bone. Remember that the Rukon district goes up to District 80, and District 80 is like the shittiest place to live, and District 1 is the best place to live. This is District 76, so it's not great. I believe Rukia and Renji grew up in 78. Yachiru is from 79, and then Kenpachi is from 80, because the Kenpachi's the district he's from is literally just called Zaraki. Like, that's where he got his name from, right? So, yeah, the shitty thing about going to the Soul Society is that it's not really heaven. So you die in the world of the living, and then you go to the Soul Society, and you can have children and stuff in the Soul Society like Jushiro's parents did, or maybe he was adopted, because they do kind of an adoption thing in the Soul Society too. But the thing is, like, you could still get, like, tuberculosis. You could still get sick in the afterlife and die just like you would in the normal, you know, in the world of the living, except you're kind of just stuck in Edo period Japan. So, yeah, that really does kind of suck when you really think about it. So that would happen with Jushiro. Jushiro's only 3 years old here, and he's dying of an incurable internal illness. It's similar to tuberculosis, where it's a lung disease. He specifically mentions his lungs in this episode, and that, you know, he's coughing up blood quite often. We've seen that before, like in the flashback with Cayenne, when, you know, he was trying to fight against the Hollow, and then he couldn't because he's like, oh no, it's the worst time for my illness to activate it, you know, when he was fighting Metastasia. And that resulted in Cayenne's death, and that was also pretty sad, right? We actually get a flashback involving Cayenne in this episode, too, which was pretty cool. Okay. So anyway, these are Jushiro's parents that are praying to the Mimihage, which is a god that is basically fell from the sky, I guess. I guess when the Soul King was ripped apart, the right arm ended up just landing in District 76, and it was kind of just revered as a local, like, backcountry god, and they built this little shrine to him, and literally is the shape of a hand, except with an eye on the back of the palm, I guess, the back of the hand. But yeah, these are Jushiro's parents. This is his mom. We also see his dad. We don't get their names, but they're there. And he has a pretty big family. We see that he has a lot of brothers and sisters later on in the episode. And he's kind of like he's like the older brother that's like responsible for all of his younger siblings, right? So, the scene in the manga is pretty brief. It's just the scene of them in the temple, and then they're praying for the Mimihage to save Jushiro, and then it's just kind of like, oh yeah, he did. Don't worry, the Mimihage saved him. So in the anime, though, we get a really cool expanded scene here where the Mimihage takes Jushiro into this, like, mindscape realm. It's very similar, actually, to the realm that we saw Yuha hanging out shirtless in the last episode with his daddy, the Soul King, in the hot tub, in the astral plane hot tub, you know? So, Jushiro's hanging out there, they're walking on the water. It's a very, very somber moment, just kind of staring at one another, and then the Mimihage doesn't really talk because it's a hand, but Jushiro's there, and then the hand begins to cry out of the eye, and so Jushiro just approaches it and like, okay, I guess that means I'm supposed to, like, take your tear. So it's a very, like, yeah, it's a cool scene where Jushiro, like, takes the water, the tear out of the Mimihage's eye and then drinks it, and then his whole body, like, begins to swell up and expand with, like, the power of a god. And then, you know, this is the power of stillness, and we get the title, Bleach 29, The Dark Arm. And we see a brief scene where his hair actually turns black, and then it goes back to white. So what was actually explained about that is that Jushiro's hair used to be black, and then during a coughing spell, it was really bad, his hair turned white. So I always assumed this happened, because I think, if I'm remembering this correctly, there was a scene earlier on in the manga where we see a flashback of Jushiro, and he did have black hair, and then we see him with white hair here as, like, a 3-year-old kid. So it's possible that, I think that was just, like, retconned in that, like, when he was born, he had black hair, but then he had, like, this really bad coughing fit when he was, like, 3, his hair turned white. That was probably what caused his parents to go bring him to the shrine and start praying, and this happened here. So even though he is technically, well, he's not dead, so that's good. He would have died probably right there or shortly after that if it wasn't for the Mimihage's interference. And we see him here is a little older, and he's, like, going into town, and he's planning on becoming a Soul Reaper. He's planning to enter the academy, and he's very well liked, and everybody knows about him and everything like that. We have a cute little scene here where this asshole decides to accost, like, this old lady. And he's just like, who the hell are you? Get out of here. I'll harass all the old ladies I want. Captain William is my greatest role model. The old lady kicks his ass, which is great. You think it's going to be a scene where Jushiro is going to be like, don't worry, old lady, I'll be the one to rescue you. I'll come to your aid. No, the old lady kicks the shit out of this guy. Punches him in the gut, drops his ass. He's like, don't think less of me, because I'm old, sonny. I used to be the captain of Squad 1 before that little brat Yamamoto took over. I'm the strongest old lady in all of the Soul Society. Anyway, bye. And then she leaves. We don't see her again. I want to know old lady Okone's story. What was her story? Damn it. Okay. Anyway, Jushiro gets up and he's just like, hey, Oone, you know, she's pretty strong. She's pretty powerful. Yeah, you should be careful. Anyway, you want to come with me and join the Shinigami, join the court guard squads? And he talks about his goal a little bit here. You know, he's just like, you know, I'm here to help people, but I'm also here to get money for my family because I have a big family. I am Ukitake Jushiro, and you are. And, you know, I thought this was going to go on some, like, angle with, like this was going to be a guy that was introduced. Like, this guy's not in the manga, clearly. This is just a random thug dude that's just wandering around Rukongai. But I thought this was going to be a thing in the episode where it's like Ukitake was going to befriend this guy. and then like they were going to join the academy together, and then maybe something would happen and he died from like a hollow or something, and then maybe that's going to like oh, he started off as a real big asshole, but then Jushiro kind of like, Jushiro fixed him. Or something. The kindness of Jushiro made him a better person, and then he dies, and that's why we never saw him before in the manga. But no, this guy is just in this one scene. He's really just here to depict, like the kind of character that Jushiro is, like the kind of person he is and his goals and everything like that. So he's very, very strong. He's, shaking his hand. He's like, come on, let's join the academy, friend, you and me. And he's like crushing this guy's palm. He's like, let go of me. I'm out of here. You can see his palms all red. And he runs away, so we don't see him in the rest of the episode. So at this point, Jushiro does begin to bleed. And it's a question of, like, hey, if the Mime Hage is like a god, why couldn't it cure tuberculosis? So it does make a lot of sense once you understand the, let's see if I get a freeze frame of the hand here. Oh, yeah, look at the blood hand. Dude, that's a lot of fucking blood. Dude, if I'm just walking down the street and I cough up that much blood, that's like several, that's like a cup of blood right there. Damn. Yeah, anyway, I mean, they're souls, so it's like, yeah, maybe it works a little differently. So the reason it doesn't, like, completely heal is because the very nature of Mimi Hage is stillness, not progress. Now, if it was the left arm of the Soul King, if it was Pernida, maybe Jushiro might have actually have been cured. I don't know if Pernida would have lent Jushiro their power, but unfortunately, it wasn't the left arm, it was the right arm. So really the idea is, yeah, in exchange for, like, your illness won't progress. I mean, it won't progress in the sense it won't get any worse, but it won't get any better either. It'll just kind of stay in stasis. That's the way I interpreted this. So, he had he was like a very close to death. He was like maybe a hair's breadth away from death when he was a little kid. So it's going to stay at that moment. Like he's like 90% close to death or something. It won't go any further than that, but he still has to struggle with the actual illness. He's still going to be coughing up blood. He's still going to be relatively weak in terms of constitution. But even with that weak constitution, Jushiro was able to rise through the ranks in the academy, become, a very prodigious prodigy, and was able to become the captain of the 13th Division. This is also interspliced with scenes of Shunsui going down into Muken. Here he is unlocking the door to the prison as he's about to head in and meet with Aizen. And, there's also a scene where Shunsui's like, hey, just don't give up just because things get tough. Ukitake, so they had a little moment in the last core where, Ukitake was going one way and Shunsui was going the other way, and that was kind of the last time they really ever had a moment together, because Ukitake's not going to make it, so they had a little bit of a conversation, and now Ukitake is performing the Kamikake, so yeah, he's not coming back. So here we have Shunsui and Jushiro in their academy days. They haven't quite become, full-fledged members of the court guard yet. However, they're like top of their class. We have Yamamoto back there. We have Chojuro Sasakibe, and we have Unohana observing them as they're sparring. And it's a pretty cool scene where Jushiro and Shunsui, this is like the first time they've really interacted. It was mentioned they knew of each other before, but this was the first time where they're really starting to become friends. So they're practicing with their wooden swords back and forth, and they're mentioning that, like, oh, yes, they're both, yes, they're young, but they have a lot of potential, and they're going to be great, Shinigami someday. They're going to become great Soul Gami someday. I was going to say Soul Reaper and then Shinigami halfway through. There's the moment where, oh my god, you know what, Ukitake, this is a lot of blood. This is always concerning. This isn't just, like, a little bit of blood he's coughing up. He's like a fire hose with this shit every time. So he's coughing up on a lot of blood here. But Shunsui is not deterred. Shunsui does not, like, hey, I'm going to stop here and, we'll wait until you catch your breath and you stop coughing up a bunch of blood and we'll try again. No, the battle keeps going, and even in the situation here, even when he's coughing, he's like, nope, still going, still going. And this is a moment where they both kind of break their swords. He's like, you are magnificent. And Jushiro's like, you have no mercy for the sick, I see. I think we're going to be lifelong friends. So it might be a thing with Jushiro where he's like, because he always has a very sickly demeanor and kind of like a weak constitution, people think that he's overall very weak and frail and he can't maybe do much. And maybe people might be, I don't know, in a sense, like looking down on him out of like pity because of his illness, but he doesn't want to be viewed that way. And Shunsui is one of the people that actually don't view him that way. And it's just like, hey, no, we're sparring. even if you're coughing up blood and shit, no, I'm still gonna spar. We're gonna spar until you, like, now if Jushiro himself said, hey, can we stop for a moment? I need a breather. I think Shunsui would have stopped at that moment. But unless Shunsui himself, I mean, unless Jushiro himself says to Shunsui, hey, we need to stop, Shunsui's going to keep going. It's just like, yeah, we're going to keep fighting until, we've decided a winner here, right? And it was actually kind of a stalemate, honestly. I am Ukitake Jushiro. I'm Kyoraku Shunsui. And a great friendship was forged that day. And, we actually get a little montage of Shunsui and Jushiro's friendship, and nice happy music is playing in the background, and he's like, Jushiro goes over to him and is just like, hey, I need you to introduce me to something, and, Shunsui's like, oh, you want me to introduce you to some beautiful ladies? Okay, well, come on down. He's like, no, I just want a good bakery. So they're eating the sweets, and they're walking down. They're Monaka. There you go. Monaka, that's what they're called. Contains sake. So there's a thing where he was going to give it to his little brothers and sisters, and you see them all here. They all come out here. So yeah, Jushiro has a very big family. So yeah, they're all coming out to get the food, to get the sweets, and unfortunately, they contain alcohol, so there's a little bit of a confusion there. But Jushiro's a very straight-laced kind of individual, so he's just like, no, that for children, that is poison. You can't partake of sake leaves, and then Shunsui's just like, oh, well, whatever. So we continue with the montage through the seasons. It's winter, it's summer, it's fall, and here's this cool scene where, and none of this is in the manga, by the way, where Shunsui is taken to the shrine. Jushiro takes him there and shows him the Mimihage statue, and is like, yeah, this is the right arm of the Soul King. It's real. Like, this is legit. And it saved my life when I was like 3 years old. Like, I'd be dead without the Mimihage. And Shunsui is just like, oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard of this. Yeah, the Mimihage. And yeah, it's a thing where Shunsui's kind of heard about this, because he comes from a pretty good family too. He's not one of the four noble, or I guess there used to be the five, and now the four noble families. He's not a member of the noble families or anything, but his family is a little bit in the aristocracy, so he would maybe have heard legends about this and stuff. And Jushiro's actually a little bit surprised by that. He's like, oh, you know the great god, right? And he's like, yeah, among the nobility, there is a rumor. And they go into a little bit about the different arms of the Soul King. Yeah, I heard the Soul King's body bestows many blessings. There's also a thing that goes into this in the Can't Fear Your Own World light novel, where the Fullbringers have like certain aspects, like nails of the Soul King as well. So there's more aspects than just the two arms and the heart, which I think just the arms and the heart are mentioned in the manga, because Gerard Valkyrie has the heart, and Pernite is the left arm, and then the Mimihage is the right arm, right? So here we go. Yeah, we have Shunsui mentioning that the left hand governs advancement or progress, and the right hand governs stillness. And so that's the idea of Jushiro's illness being locked into like stasis, like not getting any worse, but also not getting any better. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. We basically just have that scene there where we explain a little bit more back lore about them, especially when we get to the fight with Mayuri and Pernita. That's going to make a lot more sense. Okay, so we now have a scene at Central 46 this is right after Kaien died from metastasia and got carted off to Huecomundo to become a body puppet for Areñero. But yeah, they don't know that yet. Anyway, yeah, so the Central 46 are like, hey, you need to assign a new lieutenant. And Ukitake, I imagine, is just like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. He kind of keeps putting off the paperwork. And eventually the Central 46 call him in, and he's just like, why haven't you assigned a new lieutenant to Squad 13? And Jushiro's like, no one can replace Kaien, so I'm not getting a new lieutenant. I don't need a lieutenant. And they're like, dude, you have like this incurable lung disease that you're out of commission. You need a lieutenant. You need somebody, or like Squad 13 is going to be relatively weak. But no, he's just like very much adamant here, and he's just like, nope. I heard that during your battle with a hollow, you experienced a seizure. Oh, man. I mean, like, that's not inaccurate, but just the way that's phrased is not good. Yeah. He's like, yup, I sure did, but I'm still not assigning a lieutenant. He's like, yeah, no, it's fine. So Jushiro is like, hey, Central 46, you're the ones that set the rule that the captain of each division gets to set. It has complete control over their lieutenants. So I guess the Central 46, once they make a law, they're not allowed to overturn their own law, which that seems a little bit like, you're like, okay, well, hey, I mean, like, why'd they even call him in here? Like, they must know the law. He's like, do you not realize the law you set? Well, I mean, yeah, we did. It's like, okay, well, then we're done here. Just like, why'd you waste my time with this bullshit? You know what I mean? Like, don't, whatever. So, yeah, they have the authority to appoint lieutenants, and that's how it goes. So that's just how it is. Well, we didn't think anyone would not assign a lieutenant. It's like, well, you're dumbasses then later. Bye. And so he's talking with Shunsui here, and this is, I guess, when they're captains at this point. They both are. And Shunsui is like, oh, if it was me, I would have had 2 lieutenants, and they would have been beautiful women. So he does have 2 lieutenants right now. One is Nanao, and the other one is Okakiba. So I don't know if Okakiba would have been like the lieutenant that Shunsui always wanted, but he is very capable, right? So yeah, he basically Shunsui's like, dude, you told off the Central 46. Good for you. Good for you. Like, he did it in kind of a passive-aggressive, very kind Jushiro Ukitake kind of way, but he kind of taught him what is both they mind their own damn business. So, yeah, people have to risk their lives sometimes. It's not just this time. There is a line that shows up in this episode a lot, but it shows up earlier in, I think it, so I remember it from Volume 30 when Kaien was training Rukia. Okay, and it was mentioned there. I think it might have been mentioned elsewhere. But, my Bleach knowledge is a little rusty, but it was the line where Kaien was saying, hey, the captain has a philosophy, and that philosophy is there are 2 different kinds of fights in the world. One kind of fight is for saving people's lives, and another kind of fight is for honor, right? And Kaien has his own perspective on this, where he feels like it's about the heart. It all comes down to one thing, which is about the heart. But this is Ukitake's philosophy, and it's a famous quote from Ukitake. It's probably the most famous quote that he has in the story, and so that gets popped up quite a bit in this episode. So whoever, directed this episode and wrote this, and the extra scenes and stuff, I don't know if it was all Kubo or if it was somebody, that, helped him out or whatever, but, like, they went back and they paid attention to a lot of the background information involving Ukitake. You know what I mean? They didn't just like, hey, this is his family and this is him meeting Shunsui and his illness and everything. They added a lot of extra stuff to it, so it's pretty cool. So yeah, they have the sweets here because of the situation where it's like, oh, Nanao hid my sake, so here are the sweets that we used to eat back when our lives were a little bit more carefree, and now they're a little bit more serious now that we're captains and we have a lot more. And I mean, like, this is right after fucking Kaien died too. This is like right after that. Shunsui's trying to cheer up his friend and have a drink. So there we go. So now we're cutting to, this is right after the Quincy's first invasion, or I guess their second invasion. There was the first invasion where they made their declaration, and then the proper invasion where Yuha showed up and everything, and Yamamoto was killed. So this is at this point where we have this awesome scene. I love this scene with Shunsui, Ukitake, and Unohana, all the most eldest captains at this point, looking down at Yamamoto's sword, Ryujin Jaka, and just like, oh man, and Shunsui's like, I never thought being the head captain was this difficult. And then you have Ukitake and Unohana here, and this right here is the scene right here. This is an added scene, not in the manga at all, where Unohana and Ukitake just kind of confront each other. They're just kind of walking side by side, and then they kind of run into each other, and they're like, hello, Captain Ukitake. Hello, Captain Unohana. And just like, I will be seeing you soon. See you later. And that's kind of it. That's all it is. There's not much to it than that. But, dude, this one scene actually adds a lot of shit into what is going to happen later on during the Hell arc, where they both end up dying. They both end up in Hell because of just how strong they were. And it's looking like they are going to be the primary antagonists in the new Breaths from Hell arc, or the Jaws from Hell arc. Okay, so you got Ukitake, Unohana, and Yamamoto all stuck in Hell, and they're coming back, and they're like kind of overflowing with how strong they are, right? So go check out Bleach, New Breaths from Hell, the chapter that came out, oh my god, it was 3 years ago now. It was right before I moved is when that chapter came out, in 2021, I think. So, my god, it's been, time flies, already 3 years already since then. This is a scene we saw earlier where we have Kiyone and Sentaro. This is a scene that happened earlier, right when the Quincy's began their invasion and changed the entire Seirete over into the Vandente, and they were already at the shrine, and that was when Captain Ukitake was doing the prayer to Mimihage to try to, like, unlock the power and prepare the Kamikake. So we cut back to the Research and Development Division, where Ukitake is now releasing the power, and we learn a little bit more about it because Rukia obviously is distraught and everybody else is freaking out. And so Ukitake says that the Mimihage began by eating or inhabiting the lungs, the diseased tuberculosis-filled lungs that Ukitake had. And over this process, over many years, it becomes like spreads throughout his body. So this is called the Kamikake, or the Divine Vow, and basically the entire his entire body is now owned by the Mimihage. Okay, it's like it starts off in the lungs, but then it kind of spreads to the whole body, and everything inside of him belongs to the right arm of the Soul King now. So it's a rather dark kind of like thing where it isn't just like, oh, it's gonna keep your illness at bay because you prayed to it. No, it's more of like an exchange. Like the Mimihage's like, okay, in exchange for you not dying, I'm gonna like possess your body slowly and then like encroach on it, you know, in this process that apparently does take a long time. But in this process, you know, the Mimihage's kind of owning Ukitake. And so because the Soul King has been killed, it is now time for Ukitake to take its place. And Ukitake's kind of cool with it. He's mentioned that, like, I knew this day would come eventually, like, ever since. Like, I'm sure that moment where Ukitake and the Mimihage communed in the astral hot tub, there was, like, a moment there where it was like, hey, yeah, one day you're gonna have to, like, sacrifice yourself, you know, maybe for the Soul King. And so the Mimihage activates its power and goes up through the hole in the ceiling and stretches up to the Soul Palace to try to save the Soul King. Meanwhile, we are now in the prison proper, and Shunsui is approaching Aizen. This is where Shunsui is remembering it. There are two different types of battles for honor and battles to protect lives. And then we get the interstitch on the episode. We get Sosuke Aizen, and we have Mimihage. So, cutting back up to the Soul Palace, Ichigo is like, oh, you're not my father, I'll never listen to you, and then begins to fight Yuha again. This is a fight that actually does happen. I mean, fight. But it is expanded a little bit here in the anime. So, Ichigo is like, you know, how dare you, I'm not like you. Yuha's like, you dare fight me, Ichigo. You know, the Soul King was made to keep the Soul Society stable, and then as many souls come and go from it. You know, you were destined to kill the Soul King, Ichigo. You know, so now that he's gone, the Soul Society, all the different realms, and we see the world living, Quakemundo, they were all collapsed. Yeah, we've heard about this in the last episode, so we know that that's, you know, Yuha's ultimate plan. Ichigo, you were the one who did this. I don't know, gaslighting much a little bit on Yuha's part there. Ichigo, this was totally you. You did this. You're the one that had the sword and cut him. I mean, I know it was my power influencing you at the time, but, like, this was all on you, man. This is all you. All right. So this is something in the manga. Orihime just kind of jumps in to try to use her Soten Kishun to you know, patch the Soul King back together. In this one, things work a little bit differently, and all of them, Yoruichi, Orihime, Chad, and even Ganju, all have a moment together to do a combination attack to try to distract Yuha so Orihime can heal the Soul King. This is already a way better interpretation of this, right? So I think at this point in the manga, Yuha was still covered in, like, the wires that Yoruichi threw out, and that gave Orihime the time to go over and use the Soten Kishun, and it didn't work, but that was what happened. Here, it's kind of like the wires have already been destroyed, so Yoruichi's like, let's go, Chad, Ganju, it's time! And Ganju is like, alright, man, this is it! This is my time to shine! Yuha! I don't know why I'm talking like Ganju is a professional wrestler. Yuha! You say you're the almighty, and you say that you can see the future in sand. Well, guess what, motherfucker? I am the master of sand! Seppa! Just the fact that Ganju uses a sandstorm technique against Yuha. Look at Yuha. He just gives zero shits about this, but I love this. Oh my god, Ganju, you try your best, buddy. Hey, he stepped right into battle. He didn't deter. He didn't like, oh, what, really? I have to fight? I don't know about this. No, he dived right in, and he's like, all right, you know what? I don't know a lot of shit. I don't have a Zanpakuto. Although, Ganju does use a blade during the Soul Society arc. I don't know if it's a Zanpakuto, but he does have a sword. It's Bleach. Everything's a Zanpakuto. But anyway, he only has one real move that he uses, and this is Seppa, and it's his sand wave or stone wave, so he's gonna use it, damn it. So he jumps in and uses it. Wouldn't it be so funny if Yuha's there and he's like, oh no, Ganju Shiba and his famed Seppa technique. I can't hope to possibly defeat this. I can see the future as grains of sand, but this is too much sand. It's too much. And then Chad shows up, tries to use his Brazo Izquierdo del Diablo, and that's his like strongest technique. And Yuha, of course, just blocks the attack. Yoruichi tries to use Ryoken. So just with two hands, Yuha just boom blocks Chad's strongest move. Boom blocks Yoruichi's lightning fist. And I guess the Seppa didn't work. And at this point, though, Orihime does try to use the Soten Kishun. And it does initially look like it's going to paste the Soul King back together. Like, it reforms it, because she does have the power to, like, rewind fate and time. Except the Rayo is the Rayo, so it's a little different. And, yeah, it doesn't work. So it breaks, and then Yuha just lights them on fire and knocks them all back. So, you know, it was an effort. Hey, look at the giant hole in the ground that Ganju made. That's progress, right? Ganju made a hole in the ground. Good job. Yoruichi almost fell into the hole, actually. Glad that she didn't. But yeah, Chad got knocked back. But hey, at least they did something, man. At least they actually tried. At least somebody wrote in like, hey, can we have Chad try to use his strongest move against Yuha? I know it's not going to work, but can we at least show that he tried? And he did. So, yeah, he brings up, like, do you think you can bring the Soul King back to life with just human power? Saying that Orihime's ability is just human power is a little bit, it's a little bit more to it than that. But, you know, Yuha is like, of course, like, it's impossible. You cannot do it. There's no way to bring the Rayo back to life, no matter what you do. Well, and that might be true, but there is a way to make a new Rayo. I don't know if Yuha's aware of that too much. Also, Yuha's ability of the Almighty is only able to really see things around him that's not Rayo adjacent. So, like, he can't predict things like the Mimihage. He can't predict that, like, the arm is going to come up and try to save the Soul King, so he can't really see that. And Ganju just gets back up and he's like, what? Is there really no way to save the Soul King? Not even with my Seppa? Okay, so the dark arm rises into the sky, and the shaking stops. And then Yuha and everybody is surprised, and Ichigo's still there, and everything is being patched together now slowly. Yuha is pretty surprised that he did not see this happening. Yoruichi takes notice of this. Like, oh, by the way, Yuha did not see that happening. Interesting. I'm going to write that down in my little notebook. You know, that's important to know. Cannot predict Hands of the Soul King doing shit, right? And it makes sense because the Rayo is Yuha's dad, so it makes sense that, like, his power obviously eclipses Yuha's own. So it's an idea of, like, yeah, anything the Rayo or Rayo adjacent, Yuha can't predict. These are the only things that escape these eyes of mine. Although you'd feel like Yuha would already know this, because Pernida is one of his entourage. Pernida is Sternritter C, the compulsory. So you'd assume that, like, he's already been, like, he already is, like, companions and is, like, comrades with the left arm of the Soul King. Would he not already know this? So I would assume he couldn't predict what Pernida was going to do either. Gerard also, by that metric, being the heart of the Soul King, but maybe because those two are allies with Yuha's cause and the Mimihage isn't, that's why it's a little different there. So, yeah, this is a little bit precarious because Ukitake is just here, and he's basically kind of a corpse at this point. And, I mean, not really. I mean, he's still alive, technically, but he's just there covered in the black ooze of the Mimihage, and the arm is reaching up, and he's like, and it's just literally like a lifeline, like a tether that is keeping him connected to the Soul King and keeping everything stable for right now. And Soifone is the one that says it, like, how long's this gonna last? Because this doesn't look like a permanent solution to this problem. You know, like, he's there, like, having the life drained out of him slowly but surely, and it's just like a thin little line that's connecting up to the Soul Palace. So, like, Soifone is pretty rational here. Like, I don't think this is gonna be a permanent fix to this problem. You know, not only the fact that Yuha and his Sternritters are still up in the Soul Palace, they might just be able to kill the Mimihage, which, spoilers, that Yuha ends up just absorbing it. But yeah, he's like, hey, Urahara, and you know Soifone hates asking Urahara for anything, but, you know, Soifone's like, hey, Urahara, how long's this gonna last? And Urahara's like, oh, I have no fucking idea. I don't even really know what this is. I've never even heard of this Kamikake shit before. I don't know where this is going or how long he's gonna last. So I can't really give you a number on this, but yeah, I don't think it's gonna last very long. But you know, at the very least, if it doesn't last very long, we need to take this opportunity. This is a golden opportunity that Ukitake gave us in exchange for his life. We cannot let this go to waste. So we need to continue with the original plan, and we need to get everybody up to the Soul Palace as quickly as possible. Now, they don't have enough Ryatsu to get going with this, but Mayori's going to show up soon, and he's going to provide something, a little bit of a Deus Ex Machina to get them up there, if they keep it the same in the manga. In the manga, it's literally like, we don't have enough Ryatsu to get up there, and then Mayori's like, why not just use the Ryatsu amplification machine that I totally have? And then Urahara's like, really wish you would have told me that earlier. Ah, whatever, let's go. And then they just turn on the Ryatsu amplification machine that he has. But at any rate, so they are continuing with the plan to get up to the Soul Palace. Then we have the shot here of Shunsui meeting against Aizen. And he's in the Central 46. And so he's in the prison of Muken, the lowest level. And he has the keys that have been given to lift the seal. I love how Central 46 handles this. So they're like, okay, we're only giving you permission to use 3 of these. We're going to give you all of them for some reason, but you can only use 3. It's like, okay. But then also, it's like he's also been given permission to take Aizen to, like, the surface as well. How many keys does Aizen locked up with? Hold on. How many keys actually are locking Aizen up here? Let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 keys! 20 keys to keep Aizen locked up. You know, I feel like it would have been more than that, personally. Feel like it would have been at least double that. But 20 keys. Okay, so he's only allowed to use 3, though. So, you know what? Okay. Can somebody please explain this to me? Because this is something even when I was reading the manga, I still don't. I thought they were going to explain this better in the anime, but they don't. So we see Aizen. We actually go back here. Let me see if I could find the shot here earlier in the episode. Okay, so it's this scene right here, and this is actually a color page, too, in the manga, where Aizen is, like, bound to this giant pillar, stabbed with these, like, you know, like, pieces of, like, rebar or something. I don't really know how to describe them. These, like, metal stakes that are, like, running through him. And this is how Aizen is bound in Muken, okay? So he's bound to this pillar, and we see this when Yuha goes down to see him. He's bound to this pillar, okay? And it's like, all right, now Aizen is crazy powerful. We all know this. So, like, all of this stuff is, like, if you just want to say to me that, like, at any time Aizen could have just, like, removed himself from the pillar and just walked around whenever he wanted, I could buy that. He's Aizen. But, like, you know, the idea is that he's bound there on purpose and he's not leaving. Yuha also did not remove him from these bindings. Yuha walked down, asked him to join him. Aizen said no, and Yuha fucked off. Like, that's how that went. So Shunsui takes out the keys and he's like, I will undo your mouth. And then as soon as he undoes the mouth, we all of a sudden see Aizen walking out of the shadows with his eye, mouth, and all of his arms, his wrists, his ankles, his legs, everything. He's not stabbed anymore. He just walks out and just being like, hey, what's up, man? So he has also fused with Kyoka's Suigetsu, which is, I think, what's going on here. Just by talking, he's able to initiate perfect hypnosis, maybe? I guess. So, but then also, Shunsui unlocks his right eye, his left eye, I guess, and his ankles. But is releasing his ankles also enough to bring him down from the giant, like, pillar that he was, like, literally staked to? Like 3 keys should not be enough for him to just, like, walk around free as, like he can be, right? I mean, he's still bound up with all the extra stuff, but, like, it just never made any sense to me. Like, is he hypnotizing people here, or is he just so strong he could just break free whenever he wanted to? Both of those make perfect sense to me, except the hypnotism thing doesn't, actually, because they put him in the chair. We're going to see the chair in a moment, and they're going to take him topside. So it's like, is he actually freed or not? Or was the one key that unlocks the ankles enough to free him from the entire pillar? Because that doesn't make any sense to me. So, or did he hypnotize Shunsui into using all of the keys? Maybe maybe that's the case that happened. Like, he just like, oh, I've hypnotized you. You're going to use every key to unlock me. Maybe that makes the most sense. but that was never, like, shown or implied. So, like, whatever. Okay, fine. It's Aizen. Aizen's back. I'm not complaining. It's just something that always confused the fuck out of me, okay? Anyway, so, but it's Aizen, so every time he shows up, it's always confusing. So, maybe Shunsui's even aware of it, too. Like, oh, you've just used hypnotism on me to just unlock all of your restraints. Okay, whatever. Who cares? Anyway, yeah, you gotta come upstairs with me, right? Because, you know, they're Godzilla protocoling Aizen right now. The Godzilla protocol is a trope where when shit gets so bad, like, things are so bad and so beyond, like, okay, we're not gonna be able to get out of this unscathed. We're gonna literally risk unlocking Godzilla to save us. You know, like shit has gotten so bad that Godzilla going around stomping around in the atomic breath is actually the preferable option if we want to, like, survive and win this battle. And things are still going to get wrecked. It's like releasing another major problem to deal with the current major problem, okay? And it's a problem, okay? And that's Aizen. Aizen is their Godzilla protocol. All right, here we go. But that's what we got to do, right? So it's like, would you like to come upstairs? And Aizen is just like, I don't recall saying to let me out. I didn't ask to be let out of the prison, Dad. I love Aizen. He just can't, like, you know, he's such a damn narcissist. And he's just like, hey, I don't remember asking you to be let out of this prison. What do you think? You could just come down here and just use some keys to unlock my shackles and give me a free pass to the surface? You think I'm just going to take that? You think I'm just going to go with you out of prison? Screw you. I like it down here. I got a nice pillar to be chained to sometimes, and this creepy BDSM bondage gear that I wear, and occasionally there's some cockroaches that are wandering down here that I hang out with. You know, it's just like, you know, like Aizen, I love it. It's just like, yeah, I don't remember asking you to let me out. And then Shunsui's like, if you didn't want me to leave, you wouldn't have told me to use the remaining 2 keys. And Aizen's like, ah, yes, the remaining 2 keys. Yes, sure. And so, obviously, Aizen wants out of here, but he doesn't want to, like, beg, right? He doesn't want to go to Shunsui like, fine, I guess, if you want to let me out, I suppose we can go. He doesn't want to do that because it's like, Aizen's not the guy. His ego prevents that. There's no way he's going to, like, go to somebody else for help because he's Aizen. So, it's just like, they talk about how the key to Muken itself is embedded in Shunsui's heart, and Aizen is, like, taking that as a moment to, like, shit on Central 46. Like, oh, yes, those Central 46, they think that I would go to the extent to kill you and rip out the key. But if he kills Shunsui, the key just dissolves, I guess, like disappears with his body, so he'd be locked up in there forever. Like, I think that might be the only key to Muken as well. So he's like, I cannot put up with a Central 46. That's why I murdered them that one time. Oh my god, here's the chair! There's the chair, ladies and gentlemen. Check out that chair. Oh my god, I've been waiting 7-8 years for that chair, man. I've been waiting a while for that chair to show up, dude. Here's the chair. Ah, that chair, MVP of the entire Bleach universe right there. Oh my god, Chair-sama. But Shunsui says, hey, yeah, the fresh air in the Soul Society is pretty good this time of year. Why don't you come up? And Aizen is like, oh, you mean the same fresh air of the Soul Society that's now controlled by Yuha? And that's like a whole thing. And then we get this dipshit right here. Then we get this guy. Is this dude like first day as a member of the Keto Corps? Because I swear this guy is the biggest idiot. He's a member of the Keto Corps that's responsible for bringing Aizen up to the surface, and he's like, don't worry, back off, Shunsui, I will bind him before he sits down. Aizen, you gotta sit down. This guy did not read the book, did he? This guy did, and Shunsui even tries to tell him, like, hey, you shouldn't go close to him, man, and he gets his freaking fingers just ripped off. You know, because anybody that gets even close to Aizen's spiritual pressure is not negated by the restraints. It's just kept super close to him. So anybody that gets close to him just gets completely, like, incinerated. So he's walking over to try to restrain Aizen, and his fingers just get, like atomized. And he's like, ah! You know, and Aizen doesn't even move, and he's just like, yeah, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. These binds won't erase my spiritual pressure. By the way, something this fucking idiot should know. This is a member of the Keto Corps. Does he not know how these restraints work? Does he not know how this works? All right, this is the guy that was like, maybe like a lot of the Keto Corps were wiped out in the initial invasion. They had to bring in the interns or something because this guy had no, he's like, don't worry, Shunsui, I'll restrain this criminal right here. Don't worry, no match for me. Ah! Why did no one tell me about this? Maybe no one just told him about it. Maybe they were just playing a prank on him or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, there's an awesome shot here of the blood like approaching Aizen's eye, and it just like disintegrates into a puff. Like just like there's this invisible barrier around Aizen where just like nothing can touch him with all of his Ryatsu being condensed. So yeah, he's like, I didn't say anything about you fighting for the Soul Society, but we want you to fight for the Soul. I mean, like, if Yuha takes control, all three universes could just fall apart, which was essentially Aizen's plan too. Like Aizen, let's not kid ourselves here. Aizen had the same plan. He wanted to kill the Soul King as well. Although Aizen's thing is he wanted to kill the Soul King, but he didn't want all the realms to go back. He wanted to, like, kill the Soul King and, like, take his place, which we all know now that being the Reo is not all it's cracked up to be, but maybe Aizen would have done it a little different. But at any rate, he's just like, hey, how about you just come up here and fight with us, or, you know, at least defeat Yuha, and then we'll figure out what's happening after that. Aizen agrees in his passive-aggressive way to go back up to the surface because, obviously, like, why wouldn't you? I don't think he wants to stay in prison anymore. So what was that, a 20,000-year sentence that was commuted to what, like, a year and a half? Like, 18 months? So pretty good commute. Commute of your sentence. He got off on parole. You know, he got off time for good behavior. After this arc, they're just gonna chuck him right back in there again, which you get the impression that he kind of allowed himself to do that too. So I don't know what Aizen's long game is here ultimately. In the Hell arc, they might have to awaken him again. Like, he's like, hey, we need you again, Aizen. And Aizen's like, you guys just come down here whenever there's somebody too strong for you assholes to deal with, and you want me to help you. Fine, I guess. You know, I am the strongest guy around, so whatever. Aizen becomes a secret agent to help with the Soul Society. Whenever they're in an issue that they can't solve, Aizen gets unlocked. Maybe he's just happy to talk to people. He is rather lonely. But anyway, that's the episode there. A lot of stuff in this one. A lot of stuff to unpack in that episode. We get the ending shot here, and then the next episode is Bleach 30, The Betrayer. Betrayal! All right, so here we go. Getting into some Ichigo versus Uryu stuff in the next episode. Looking pretty good. I'm glad all the stuff they added in this one, the Ukitake stuff, was much appreciated. And who knows, you know, we'll get some stuff with the Hell arc eventually. Anyway, that's been BAN-KAST episode 30. Thanks everybody for watching there. And catch you back here next time, whenever the next episode is out. These keep coming out on subsequently later dates, but, you know, that's just how it is. All right, later, everybody. Thanks for watching. Signing out.